So far, we have dealt with planning for normal aircraft operations. However, there are times where it may be necessary to operate the aircraft under non-standard conditions. We shall first deal with the situation where an aircraft is required to undertake a ferry flight with the undercarriage locked down. Turn to Cap 697, Section 4, page 71, Figure 4.6.1. The graph is of the simplified flight planning type that has been dealt with previously. But to refresh your memory, we will quickly go through the procedure. Enter with the trip distance in nautical ground miles. Go vertically to the reference line, and then parallel the trade lines up and right, or down and left, to intercept the wind component. From the intersection, go vertically to the pressure altitude line, and then horizontally to the reference line. From there, follow the trade lines up and right, or down and left, to intercept the estimated landing weight. And then horizontally to read off the fuel required. Go back to the pressure altitude lines and continue vertically to the upper set of altitude lines. Go horizontally to the reference line, and up and right, or down and left, to intercept the ISA deviation. And then horizontally to read off the trip time. The time and fuel for the climb and descent are included in the calculation. A major cost of any airline operation is that of fuel. If the fuel price at the destination airfield is significantly higher than at the departure airfield, it can be cost-effective to carry excess fuel from the departure airfield. Figure 4.8.1 on page 78 and Figure 4.8.2 on the following page allow us to calculate whether the carriage of extra fuel is beneficial. When you are ready, turn to Figure 4.8.1 on page 78. We start with the premise that the heavier the aircraft, the more fuel it will burn. Figure 4.8.1 allows us to determine how much extra fuel is burned as a result of the excess weight, in both long-range cruise and at Mach 0.74 cruise. We will use the example given in the long-range cruise graph. This involves a cruise distance of 1,600 nautical air miles at 33,000 feet. Enter the graph at the cruise trip distance of 1,600 nautical air miles and go horizontally to the cruise pressure altitude of 33,000 feet. From here, go vertically down to the reference line. Parallel the trade lines to intercept the landing weight without tankered fuel, which is estimated to be 95,000 pounds. Note that this graph, unlike all the previous ones, gives the weight in pounds, not kilograms. Go vertically downwards to read off the surplus fuel burn, in this case 13.2%. This figure represents the percentage of the extra fuel over and above the normal fuel load that would be burnt as a penalty due to the extra weight. There is one problem we need to consider before we go further. Although it doesn't say so on the graph, the entering argument for figure 4.8.1 is nautical air miles. However, in any practical situation, the route distance will be in nautical ground miles. We therefore have to convert nautical ground miles into air miles using the wind component. There are two ways you can do this. They will give slightly different answers, but the differences are negligible compared with the distances involved. One is by use of the formula nautical air miles equals nautical ground miles times TAS over ground speed. You can get the TAS from the detailed flight planning table for the speed and flight level. Or you can do it from the simplified flight planning graph, which is slightly quicker. Enter with the nautical ground miles distance and go vertically to the wind component reference line. Go up and right or down and left as appropriate for the wind component. And then drop vertically back to the base again and read off the number. You have converted your nautical ground miles into nautical air miles. Now, assuming the percentage increase answer we got was the 13.2 that we found before, go on to figure 4.8.2 on the next page. In our example trip, we have calculated that we would suffer a penalty of 13.2% of fuel burn due to the excess weight. Figure 4.8.2 allows us to determine if this is commercially viable. Enter with the calculated surplus fuel burn percentage of 13.2 and move vertically to intercept the fuel price at the departure airfield. Go horizontally left to the break-even fuel price at the destination airfield, which is 115.8 cents per gallon. Therefore, we can deduce from this example that if the price of fuel at the destination is greater than 115.8 cents per gallon, it is commercially viable to carry extra fuel to offset the cost of the next sector. Let's summarize this lesson. We looked at undercarriage down ferry flight and found that the technique is identical to all other simplified fuel planning graphs. And we looked at the two fuel tankering graphs, which are easy to understand. However, don't forget that you may have to convert nautical ground miles into nautical air miles. That concludes this lesson and also our study of medium-range jet transport graphs. We'll go on to study the Jeppesen Students' Flight Planning Manual next.